Hey guys, in my last video I mentioned that I had just purchased the 5ers Instant Funding Challenge, and I thought it would be pretty helpful to share with you guys the reasons why I chose 5ers Instant Funding and stack it up against the FTMO Challenge and see how they battle each other out, right? Also, in addition to that, these two prop firms over the past 2 years have had a lot of updates to their entire structure for their prop firm challenges, and I thought it would be pretty helpful for everybody to know about which ones they might want to consider based off of these new updates to their entire prop firm challenges. So let's get right into it. Now, what's the most important question? I think the most important question, in my opinion, is how much will I get paid for trading with them in total? And that's what we're going to be discussing. That's going to be the entire basis of this comparison. If we look immediately at their key differences, we see first of all that FTMO offers a high leverage. Their leverage is about 1 to 100, I think. And that's amazing for a prop firm because it lets you open lot sizes that you probably won't be able to open with the 5ers, and that's fine. But also, moving on, FTMO offers a refundable fee as well. They offer 80% payout, which is great. They also have C Trader, which a lot of people like and I love as well. And then they have a wide variety of trading instruments. I think they let you trade cryptos, and I think they let you trade metals at least. Now with the 5ers, we see immediately that they have a huge funding cap. They have a $4 million funding cap, and I think that's awesome. They have fast scaling as well, a 50% payout, 6-month time limit, which I think is more than enough for a lot of intermediate traders and first-year and second-year traders who are just getting started with trading to hit their targets without being pressured into hitting those targets. And then finally, they also have over the weekend and news trading, which I think some people fancy. And if that's important for you, that's a huge plus for the 5ers as well. Now let's talk about the pricing. I'm going to be working with the 100k FTMO challenge, and that's because the 5ers challenge is 745 euros, and you can see that if you compare that with this FTMO 540 euro, there isn't so much of a difference, as opposed to trying to compare this with the 1080 euro for the 200k FTMO challenge. It just makes a lot more sense to choose the 100k challenge from FTMO, right? We see also that FTMO gives you a 30-day challenge period with a 14-day extension if you are above 5% at the end of those 30 days to hit the 10% requirement. They also max daily loss is 5% and your max loss overall is 10%, which is pretty awesome, and it's the standard in the prop firm industry, so it is pretty awesome to help you to achieve the goals that are required from you by FTMO. And then your target is also 10%, so it's pretty much a one-to-one scenario. Now, if we check out the 5ers, I will be choosing the 20k instant funding challenge, and the reason why, like I said, is because that's the highest challenge that they offer that comes close to the FTMO 100k challenge, which is about the average for proper comparison between these two companies, right? And you see that immediately with the low risk side, so that is this side, right? You see that 5ers expectations from you are to hit a 7% target, right? To hit a 7% target, they also give you a 6% drawdown, right? That's what 5ers allows you. Their leverage is 1 to 10, and you have a maximum time of 180 days, which is give or take 6 months, which is amazing in my opinion, right? Because it takes off all of the pressure of the time limits. Now, moving on, right? After 1 month, what happens? That this is where things begin to get interesting. So just follow me, guys. After 1 month, with the FTMO, you have just passed the challenge account, and now you have your verification account, assuming you hit your 10%, right? But you don't have any payouts, you don't have any profits, right? Now, same thing applies with the 5ers. With the 5ers, after a month as well, you have no upgrades yet. My assumptions throughout this entire presentation with the 5ers is it is pretty difficult to expect that you can hit a 10% on a month-by-month basis with the 5ers, because you are only allowed 6% in drawdown, and this 6% in drawdown is only for the first and second phases. So that's for the 20k phase of your growth and the 80k phase of your growth. Once you scale beyond the 80k phase, you no longer have 6%, you now have 4% in drawdown. At the end of the first month, you still have 0 profits with the 5ers, which is fine. Now, if you see at the bottom here, you can see that I assume that if you do the conversions from euros to dollars, for FTMO, you'll be working with around $585. And for the 5ers, it will cost you around $808, right? So just keep these two numbers in mind because they'll show up in other slides as well. Now, for the second month, what happens? With FTMO, you have passed the verification phase and you now have a funded account at the end of the second month. Now, assuming you have hit your 5, even though the second month gives you a 5% profit target. So you hit it at the end of the second month, and that's perfectly fine. You still have 0 profits in payout. Your total profit is still 0, right? And with the 5ers, at the end of the second month, now you have finally hit your 7% requirement. And so you have been upgraded right here, right? And then you have an 80K funded account, right? And you have a total of 700 in profit because it is a 50% profit split, right? So if you hit your 7% requirement on the 20K account, that is $1,400, and the 50% split of $1,400 will give you $700 in profit. But remember, guys, that the 5ers cost us $808. So if we remove that $808, we technically still have a negative profit, right? This is important because you will see it come up in month 3. In month 3 with FTMO, let's say you hit the target again, you hit the 10K before your profit split. But remember that the challenge costs you $585. That means you have a total payout from FTMO at your third month of $8,585 in profit, which is great. Now, for the 5ers on the third month, assuming nothing has changed, because it is unrealistic to expect that you'll be able to hit 10% on a month-by-month basis if you only have a 6 or 4% drawdown limit, depending on the phase that you are in, right? So we'll be working with scaling every 2 months instead of every month, right? Now, assuming that this is the third month and you are still working your way to the new target of 10%, so you have no upgrades yet, you still are on your 80K funded account. It's not that you have 0 profits. I put this here for simplicity of explanation, but it's not that you have 0 profits. You definitely make profits, right? But we will only count those profits after every 2 months, right? So all your profits in the third month accumulate in the fourth month to become 8K with 5ers. But remember that they take a 50% split, right? So because 8K is 10%, right, of the 80K account, right? So take their 50% split and you are left with 4K in profit. So that's exactly what's going to happen all through this entire explanation. Now we see immediately with the 5ers that your 80K account becomes upgraded to a 160K funded account. Your account doubles every time. Their scaling plan lets your account double every time you hit the 10% requirement, right? Now the thing is, remember that you still had some negative because this is your second payout, right? So if you take away that 108 from the 4K payout, this is really what you have left, right? So in total, this at the end of the fourth month, this is all the money that you have received from the 5ers. So now with FTMO in the fourth month, what happens? We see that you hit the 10K again at the end of the fourth month before the profit split, and so you are entitled to your 80% payout. They immediately pay you your 80% payout, and they reset your account to 100K again. And so you have made a total profit from FTMO in the fourth month, at the end of the fourth month, of $16,585, as opposed to the 5ers, which you have just made a total profit of $3,892, right? I know this might be a bit unsettling for you because 4 months of efforts and only 3K. In the fifth month with FTMO, you are still running. You are still absolutely killing it. You hit your 10K before profit splits, you get reset again, and then you have your 8K profits in your fifth month, which is your 80% profit split, and you have a total of $24,585 in profit. Now for the 5ers in your fifth month, no upgrade yet. You are still stacking up your dollars to get to the 10%, right? So that's why I call this 0. Like I said, you're just stacking up your dollars, so everything counts at the end of the second month, which is at the end of the sixth month, right? You still have 160K in funded accounts. You still have a total profit of $3,892. In the 6th month, what happens? You scale up with the 5ers account. Immediately, you are upgraded from 160K. Remember, every time you double, this is something you need to seriously pay attention to. So you go from 160K to 320K, which is amazing. And then you hit a 16K profit target, right? And they take their 50% profit split, and you are left with 8K. right? And so your total amount you've made from the 5ers is $11,892 in profit. And for FTMO, what happens? You hit profit split again. Now notice what happens with FTMO. FTMO's scaling plan is a bit different because it's at the point where you have successfully made a total of 10% for 4 months. FTMO scales your account by 25%. So your 100K account becomes a 125K account, right? And then you still receive your profit split based off of the trading activity for the 6th month, right? And so you get your 8K in profits, and then you have 32K 585 US dollars, right? Now I will show you 2 more months, and then I'll show you what happens at the end of 12 months. I want you to pay attention to the scaling plan by the time you see what happens at the end of 12 months, right? Now with FTMO, you still have 125K in funded accounts. You hit your 10%, which is 12.5K, right? You are reset back to 125K account, and you have received your 90% profit split now, not 80%, because the moment you scale, FTMO begins to pay you a 90-10 payout ratio, right? So you receive $11,250 in profit, and your total profit comes down to $43,835, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing as a trader in your first year trading with any of these prop firms, right? Now with the 5ers, on your 7th month, pretty much nothing happens. You're just stacking up your funds. Again, let it be in mind that you can withdraw as you stack up. It does not affect your counting towards your 10%. You're still working with a 320K funded account, and you are still left with $11,892 in profit at your 7th month of trading with the 5ers. This might be a bit uncomfortable for a lot of people, but let's just keep watching. On the 8th month, you are finally scaled up with the 5ers from 320 to 640K to a 640K account, and that means you hit your 32K 10% profit target, and they take their 50% profit split, and you are left with 16K, right? And so your total amount you have received from the 5ers is $27,892 in profit. And same thing applies with FTMO. You have successfully hit your 12.5K 10%. Your account resets to 125K, and you have $11,250 in profit from your 90% profit split. And then you finally have a total of $55,085 in profit, right? Now this is where things get interesting. Remember that the 5ers scaling plan doubles every time you hit 10%. And we have said that we have chosen to assume that it would take us realistically, at least if we're going to compare apples to apples, if we say that FTMO takes us a month to achieve 10%, then it is more realistic if we have only 4% drawdown with the 5ers to say that we will be able to hit 10% in 2 months. That is a more realistic apples to apples comparison, right? So with that in mind, right, what happens with the 5ers? By the 10th month, because you're managing a $640,000 account, you hit your 10%, which is $64,000 US, and then they take their 50% profit split, and you are left with $32,000 with the 5ers. Now, after your $640,000 account, your account doubles from $640,000 to $1.2 million. And because you are now managing a $1.2 million account, by your 12 months, you have hit a target of $128,000, which is 10%, and then they take their 50% profit split, and you are left with $64,000. Now you see that at the end of everything, someone who stuck with 5ers would have made a bit more. It's not so much, but would have made a bit more than somebody who stuck with FTMO for 12 months. Now we know that there will be nuances, and it won't always take 2 months to hit the targets consistently. But just for the sake of being able to compare these two companies' challenges, we can see how it turns out. Now, finally, the FTMO challenge might be something a lot of people might be more comfortable with because of the large amounts they can receive on a month-by-month basis. Now, because you might have needs and you might have a lot of bills to pay, a lot of people it might make more sense for a lot of people to go with the FTMO challenge, and that's just one reason amongst a lot of other reasons why people might want to consider the FTMO challenge. But this is just to say that the 5ers are also a very good choice for people who might be looking to take the pressure off themselves by trying to hit their targets. Now, moving on to some of the biggest concerns. Now, a lot of people complain about the 5ers 4% drawdown limit as compared to 10% with FTMO, right? Now, and I say to people, when you think about it like that, if the 5ers gives you 4% drawdown, right, and FTMO gives you 10% in drawdown, and they both have a target of 10%. If your targets are 10% each, 10% each, right? If we want to be realistic with our ability to get the results we want, if you need 20 trades on your strategy to be able to hit the target, if you think that 20 trades is a good enough sample size to let your edge play out in your favor, right? That means with FTMO, you would need to risk 0.5% per trade, right? Because 0.5% times 10 trades, right, will give you 5%, right? Times another 10 trades will give you another extra 5%, and then you would have hit the target, right? If it takes you 20 trades to hit a profit target of 10%, right, with a drawdown of 10%, that means you should apply the same thinking in some way as ratios to your 5ers requirement. That means you should expect that you need to find out what percentage you would risk to hit 4%, right? Since you are only giving a 4% drawdown. For FTMO, it was 0.5% per trade, but for the 5ers, it will be something smaller because your drawdown is smaller, and that's perfectly fine. So just find out what works for you if you're working with a 20 trade sample size, right? That would, I don't want to go into the maths to not waste our time, right? Now, the other thing is trading gold and crypto. Now, I know immediately that the 5ers doesn't let you trade crypto. So if that is something you're looking to take advantage of, then you might want to consider going with FTMO. Now, spreads. If I talk about spreads, I know that both companies offer really great spreads. I would link a video in the description where the 5ers shows what their live spreads look like. And I must say that 5ers spreads are really great, right? Now, the leverage is something that you might also be uncomfortable with. But like I said, because your drawdown is limited to 4%, you need to lower your lot sizes. You need to basically work out what numbers work for you to be able to do 4% to 4% and 4% to 10%, right? If that makes sense, because of your limits with the 5ers. Now, finally, with profit splits, we can see that the profit splits don't really matter. The 50% that a lot of people feel like might be too small doesn't really matter in the long term because your account keeps doubling every time you hit the profit target. Now, finally, as we conclude, what account lets you hit 10% easier per month? We know that easily goes to FTMO due to higher leverage influencing our lot sizes, more instruments at our disposal, and more trading platforms at our disposal, right? Because of all these things that you can work around with, you will be able to hit 10% realistically more easily on FTMO as opposed to the 5ers. Which is best for traders that are just getting started with prop firms? I immediately give this to the 5ers because the moment the pressure of hitting your target within a certain time frame is taken away from you, you can trade and let your edge play out for you, which I think is pretty important, guys. So due to the reduced pressure from time limits, due to having to deal with less trading rules, due to low leverage to keep risk management in check, and a great learning environment, I think 5ers is wonderful for helping traders that are just getting started with prop firms. But then again, this is my bias, guys. You're free to choose whatever works for you. Then finally, I think it's important to note that if we had done our calculations with the FTMO 200K challenge, we would have outperformed somebody with the highest challenge or the highest program with the 5ers in the span of 1 year. Now, over time, the 5ers will still outperform the FTMO because of the max funding capital, right? FTMO's max funding capital is $2 million, which is really great, by the way. But because the 5ers lets you scale up to 4 million, you would eventually outperform the FTMO trader. Secondly, hitting 10% monthly may not be so feasible on average. This applies to FTMO as well as the 5ers. So these are things you should keep in mind as you decide what prop firm best works for you. With this in mind, what prop firm do you think is the best overall? Please let me know what you think in the comment sections, and if I missed anything, please point it out to me as well. I hope you found this really insightful, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Cheers and God bless.